So I just wanted to go over a trade from London session on Monday, the 3rd of February, 2025. Okay, and this is a trade that I didn't actually get to take because I missed it. But the reason I want to record it is because it was quite clean. And there's something in here that I want to try and put out there, one for myself, but two for other people to go and test and see if they find it works as well. Okay, so you can see we have NZD-JPY and AUD-JPY. Okay, and both pairs are moving from a weekly internal to external range. Okay, hopefully. Obviously, we've had this bit of consolidation, but with this now new week opening gap that's formed, we're hoping that price is now on its way to the downside, to the sell side liquidity. Okay, so NZD-JPY, we can see last week closed back above in the range here. Yeah, meaning potentially we're going to come back up and down, and it's just not going to be too clean. AUD-JPY did, however, tap back into the weekly again and then close below. So we was looking for a short position here. Okay, well, going into the week bearish with a bearish mindset. Okay, so we can use both pairs obviously as we do because we use closely correlated pairs, and then we just use whatever pairs weaker on the day, take the setup dependent on obviously what goes on the lower time frames. So this is the weekly charts, and we'll stick to NZD JPY to start. Okay, so you can see this is the weekly chart. If we drop down in time frames, go to the 4 hour. Obviously, you can see this huge new week opening gap. Okay, and if we focus on this candle here, which is the 1 a.m. candle. So the 1 a.m. 4 hour candle, which starts just before London. And then obviously we have London kill zone at 2 a.m., which you can drop down on the 1 hour chart and we can see quite clear. Okay, so the reason I didn't take this trade, I'm going to make this quite clear from the start why I didn't take it, okay? Because we see this Asia level here, okay? And price in London didn't sweep this here on NZD-JPY. However, on AUD-JPY, we did sweep, okay? And we did sweep this 1 hour high and close back within the range, okay? So, and as you can see, you obviously did have continued to the downside, this 1 hour candle, this one, and this one. And obviously we tapped into this FVG and inversion, and price is now pulling off of it and doing whatever it wants to do. As far as I'm concerned, this trade is played out anyway, so you wouldn't be looking for anything from it anyway. But if we just go back to NZD-JPY, okay, so we could go into this thinking, okay, well, AUD-JPY swept the Asia high, so we don't actually need this pair to do the same, okay? But this high up here, which is where the new week opening gap is, ideally for an A plus setup for me, I would prefer that high to be swept. Okay. Same with the AUD JPY pair. If that high was swept and this happened, I would have been on this trade 100% and it would have been an A plus setup for me. But if we drop down to the 5 minute chart, okay, you can see that even though that high wasn't swept, there was, however, a trade and an entry. So we did take Asia high. Okay, so liquidity has been taken. We have this up here. It's one of them ones where if you don't take it, it plays out. You're fuming that you didn't take it. But with that in mind, you've got this liquidity level just here. Now, price could have easily bounced back up. It was a very small FVG, but however, you could have took this trade. Okay, so you could have entered off that FVG, gone for a 1 to 2R, which would have been just here. You could have even targeted this level down here, gone for near enough a 1 to 3. I always go for a 1 to 2, so this would have been a winning setup for me. However, again, I don't take trades. As you can see, 345, I probably wouldn't have entered here due to the fact that on the 1 hour chart, if we just pull one more candle up on the 1 hour, just to make it, because obviously since then there's another candle's gone. So this 1 hour here, so we closed within the range. Okay, so this was at 345. You'll see price was around about this level here. Okay, so we did, however, close at, where is it? This is the 4 a.m. candle, so this is where we closed, just here. Okay, so we did close way below the range, so we could have took this entry, but as I've explained before, price tends to make an open high. If you want to go lower, it's going to make an open high on the next candle, which was the 4 a.m. candle. As you can see, price did that make an open and then a high and then continue to the downside. So your entry for this trade most likely would have been, if you was going to trade this pair, you'd have took this, okay? You probably would have had your stops about there because no real reason to have it at the swing point. So yeah, I believe you just about quarter 1 to 2 R. Okay. Now, this looks like, oh, it's specifically perfect, blah, blah, blah. This is today's live price action. Now, the reason it looks so perfect and, oh, yeah, price tagged it and ran back up to yeah, because price does, it's algorithmic. It does what it needs to do. And once it's finished and takes liquidity, it's got no reason to continue. It will go back and do whatever it needs to do next. So this completed the market maker sell model here. Okay. For whatever reason, it tagged, we know what the reason is. If we make this only visible on the 5 minute and we go back up, to the 1 hour, or we know price has tagged back into this bullish FVG and the inversion. So now price doesn't really want to go any lower. Okay. With that in mind, if we go back to NZDJPY and you take into consideration that we don't need to see this Asia high swept because AUDJPY done it, then you would have had a much cleaner setup. And this is what I would have took if I was seeing this live and trading it live. I did see this setup forming, but as I said, being a Monday and being super cautious, and I'd already taken a loss anyways in the first hour of London, I wasn't willing to take an entry and get absolutely ruined. So, because these are relative equal highs, they look really quite nice to get targeted, and this also. So I would have took this trade. Okay, this would have been my setup if I was going to trade any of these two setups. Okay, I would have targeted a 1 to 2 R, and I'm going to explain why I would have took this trade over the AUD JPY one. Okay, so yeah, AUD JPY has done the sweep, and obviously we look more bearish here. And depending on what pair was weaker, obviously that would have been the main idea of what I would have took. But the reason for this one would have been time. Okay, so if we look, price here, okay, 340, it makes a tag into this FVG. It's just like AUD JPY did. But when we open at 4 a.m. just here, we go lower, we create this FVG that we'd have entered on. The reason I would have gone with it on here is because of the time, okay? So 4:15 is sort of perfect time within the hour. It's the first 15 minutes of the hour. You want to see price make the open high at that point, okay? Obviously, it already made the open and a high here, but it nearly reached to try and make a high for the hour again, which is why I would have gone off this entry because we created the FVG and then entered off of it. Okay, as you can see on the or JPY one, we did the same, but again, like I said, you could have. That's the same entry here, of course, 4:15. But as I said before, you could have took this entry. Okay, but based on time, I wouldn't have took that. Okay, so 3:45. I know very rarely do I take a trade at the back end of any hour, just purely because I don't really find them that high probability. And yeah, these were two really nice setups. You could have took either or based on taking it from the 4 a.m. candle and this being the setup. You could have took either of them. Okay, depending on what pair was weaker, AUD or NZD, depending on time and where it was heading at that moment. But yeah, they were really nice trades. As you can see, if we pull the hour again, look, as you can see, price swept the high, closed back within the range, and then sold off, took out liquidity, and then obviously it's now reversed back up near enough to where your break even would have been if you'd have been targeting the lows. Okay, but again, I always target 1 to 2 R for this exact reason. Most of the time, you get 2 R and price then fucks around, and I don't like to see that. So yeah, very clean setup, and yeah, it's just something I wanted to note down and give people some sort of information on, and just to show what I was sort of seeing and looking at this morning. But based on that, that's the trade. And yeah, it's unfortunate we missed it, and there'll be many more. But it's good to train your eyes to see these things.